All right, hello again. We are here on Thursday, April 16th, I believe is the date of this Thursday. And we're finally getting to step two of recording an album. This is the very boring part. This is pre production, and I'm just going to be creating files and folders for all of the song ideas, um, just kind of organizing all of my thoughts uh, into some sort of structure. So, um, yeah, I've got a screen capture here that I'm gonna start recording, and then hopefully this will work and you'll be able to see what I'm doing on my screen. Again, we're just making folders and files for all of the song ideas that I have written down. Okay, so let's start. You can see here the album I've, working title called Identities, and then I've done the first three song tracks there. So let's continue on creating new folders for each one of them. And again, at this point, all of these folders are going to be working titles for the songs. So the way I typically come up with a working title for a song is just kind of, it's either a riff or an idea that sounds a lot like something else, um, sincerest form of flattery, as they say. So a lot of times I'll just kind of call it, like if it sounds like a Dream Theater tune, I'll call it Dream Theater ripoff or something like that. Or if it invokes some sort of image in my head, I'll try to just call it whatever that image is. If I can type right. Whoops. Okay, on to the next one. For example, this idea for song number 7 is just kind of a Radiohead sounding riff, and it's in the key of A. So I called it Radioheadish in A. Right? Not the most creative thing in the world, but once we come up with more set lyrics and set ideas, these will all get actual titles. Again, these are just working titles for now. Forgot to put them number wise there. Again, punk song in C. It's kind of a riff that sounds like a punk song to me, and it's in the key of C. It's in drop C, that riff, so it's entitled Punk Song in C. Very boring stuff, like I said. And I'm very surprised if any of you are actually watching all of this. Again, so that's actually supposed to be Muzak ripoff. There's a song by Porcupine Tree that you may be familiar with called Sound of Muzak, and the riff I came up with kind of sounds like that. It reminded me of that song, so I just decided to have a working title of Muzak ripoff. Hopefully the lawyers won't come for my head. Not that I care. Okay, so that's just a little piano riff that I came up with. That's actually the prelude to the last song, which is called Falling Man. Okay. And there was one other song that I wanted to do, or at least I had it on my list to do, but I don't think it's going to fit after kind of mulling around with it. It's actually a song that I wrote probably 20 years ago, and I thought maybe this is a good time to throw it on there, but it's just not ready. Um, or it may never be ready. It just doesn't fit with the theme of what I'm going for. Um, so there we go. All right, now I have all of the folders set up, and what I'm going to do next is create a text file or a Word file, and that's to kind of keep lyrical ideas or any other ideas that I may need organized for each song. So each folder will get its own text file, and then also create a Logic file. So that's the actual DAW that I use is Logic, if you can't tell I'm on a Mac. So we'll create a file in each folder from Logic, and we'll set up like the basics. You know, I'll add a few tracks. We won't record anything, but I'll get the BPM down. I'll set up a click maybe and set the key, right? The key signature, time signatures if we need it, those sorts of things. Okay, so not going to do that right now, but I'll come back in a little bit and we'll create all of those files. All right. Okay, and we're back on April 17th. We're Friday and my hair is looking silly. And I believe this is the next day. Started yesterday creating folders. So again, we're here on Friday afternoon, evening. Actually, it's raining outside. And what I'm going to do tonight, since I have another few free minutes, is start creating the files in Logic X or 10. And I'll just walk through what I do in the initial stages of creating that Logic file. Okay, I won't go through every single one, obviously. We'll just do one for the sake of doing it. I've got my screen capture going again here, so let's swap over. All right. So you see, I just opened up a new Logic project or file, whatever you want to call it. It's asking me like how many number of tracks do I want. I typically I start with 24, and it's going to be audio is what I do, and create. So you see here it's created 24 audio tracks for me. Now obviously we're not going to get to all of these right now, but the first thing I do is the first track is going to be I call it count ins. So eventually I give myself a click, a count in 4 beats or 3 beats or however many beats. So when I start recording drums and I'm listening to it, not only do I have the metronome going, but then I hear the 4 clicks of when the actual song is going to start, so I know for a drum reference where to begin. Okay, so that's the first track. The second track is scratch guitar, and then the third track is scratch vocals if I need any scratch vocals. What that means, scratch means that eventually I'm just going to get rid of it. It's just going to be a guide track for me to build all of the other instruments off of. So I'll have the metronome, the click going. It'll give me the 4 beats to count in. Then I'll record just a really basic, really rough. All the mistakes are going to be in there. We don't cut anything out because again we're going to get rid of it later. But a playthrough of the basic structure of the song. It can be edited and changed later on, that's fine. And then that gives me, again, a reference. If there are any vocal cues or like little riffs or anything like that, I can hear in my headphones while I'm recording the other instruments. So I do the scratch takes, then I'll go do the drums, then the bass, and then after that it's a mix of like doing guitars, doing vocals. I typically keep any like synths or virtual instruments, piano, I'll do that last typically, unless it's like a major part that I'll need as a reference guide again. Okay, so while we're here and I'm looking at it, we might as well name some of these tracks so we know in the future what we're doing. And I'm going to name just the drum tracks for now. So we start with the kick drum, and then I do the snare, and then I go around the kit and do all of my toms. So tom 1, tom 2, tom 3, tom 4, and tom 5. Okay, that's good. Then I do a hi-hat. I typically do a separate mic for the hi-hat. Just because I'm anal retentive sometimes and I like to keep things consistent, I'll name that with mixed case. All right, so hi-hat, and then overhead. And that's like the mics that go over top of the drums. They capture kind of the cymbals and the sounds from up above. So there's 2 of those. There's overhead left, so L, and then overhead R for right. And then finally the last drum mic is a room mic that I place, let me call it drum room. So a room mic that I place, it's actually going to be like right here when I actually put it, and then you can see the drum set behind me. So it's picking up kind of the full sound of the room, reverberations and everything. By itself, it typically sounds really bad and very harsh, but when you mix it in with all the other stuff, all the closed mics, it gives it a pretty good sound. Okay, so that's all for now, I think, at least for naming the tracks. The next thing I do is come up here and set my key signature. Actually, let's name this. We'll save it. File. Save as. This one is going to be for. I gotta find my buried deep. This is going to be the Crowd of Millions song. You see I've set up the text file that I spoke of yesterday. So this is going to be just, we'll call it Crowd of Millions. And it's the actual Logic file. So save that. Okay, so Crowd of Millions, the tracks, cool. Let's set our key signature. This one it's what I call D minor. I don't know if that's technically correct, to be honest. Pardon my lack of theory. It's based on a G sus chord to a D minor flat 5 chord. There are some other changes in there, but that's the basics of it. So I think that's D minor. I'm calling it D minor. And it is in 4, but I don't like to do 4/4. I prefer to have my clicks be 1/8 notes, so I set it as 8/8. So I get a click. It helps me subdivide if I'm hearing the click for 1/8 notes instead of quarter notes. Kind of helps stay in time. And then I've already sussed out the tempo for this, so I think it's at 72 BPM, beats per minute, if I remember correctly. That can be changed. I'll have a listen to it later on, but I think that's right. So 72 1/8 notes and D minor. All right, that looks pretty good. We'll save it again. And there you go. Okay, that's the basics. That's how I first set up my file. Again, as we get deeper into the actual recording and arranging of the songs, all of that could change. But for now, I'm just going to go through every folder, every track, and create a file just like that for each individual song. Yeah, so thanks for watching, and here's to good times and health for everyone, I hope. We're doing good here in Memphis for now. Like I said, it's Friday night, so we've got the weekend coming up. Not that the weekend matters much anymore these days, but the rain will stop, it'll be sunny, and we'll get outside and get some fresh air. So y'all take care. Thanks again.